She calls herself Bill Nye the Science Guy. What are you talking about? It's like she's always trying to overemphasize every little task she does, trying to always make everything more difficult in your mind than it was in reality. We're watching you do it. We know it's not hard. Just like it wasn't hard to make that sourdough bread. Just like it wasn't hard to measure that water. But you got to make all this drama. Are we going to get it right? Are we going to get it right? Oh, yay, we measured it right. Party in the house. Hello, how are you? Welcome to my channel. My name is Cheer Denise. We're going to talk about episode 2 in the Meghan Markle show with Love Meghan. And you guys, I have to say, I was profoundly horrified when I found that Chrissy Teigen was going to be the guest on the show, because if there is one problematic human being, it's Chrissy Teigen. And it just goes to show you how desperate they were to book people for this stupid show. Somebody pointed out to me yesterday in the comments, and this was a good catch. David and Christina, the guests from yesterday, are already affiliated with Netflix. So their being on Meghan's show was not like she had done her own network or invited her true friends over or were, come over here, none of this. It's not like she was like DMing people and being like, oh my gosh, I'd love to have you on my show. And they were like, oh yes, me too. Christina and David already work for Netflix. So this was just some of Netflix providing some individuals who could be on the show. I'm not really sure how Chrissy Teigen got on the show. Because to my knowledge, Chrissy doesn't have a contract with Netflix. So I don't know if this was a Netflix hire or what this was. But the fact that Meghan gave the green light to have Chrissy on her show, I mean, I can't even begin to describe to you the desperation, the scramble they must have been having behind the scenes to find someone. I don't know if you're aware of how problematic Chrissy Teigen has been over the years. First of all, she's a completely irrelevant person as far as what her skill set is. The fact that she's gotten where she is a huge, huge question mark. And let me just tell you something right now. If there is a celebrity, if there is a politician, if there is an author, a creator, a writer, a musician, anybody, if they are suddenly skyrocketed and you can't find their skill set, you need to be asking yourself a lot of questions about how they got to the place that they're at and what kind of powers they've tapped into and what kind of favors they've done and what kind of blackmail they have. You need to ask yourself that question, because 10 out of 10 times when you start digging into where they are or how they got there or who their connections are or who their friends are, it always comes back to some weird ass shit. And there's nothing different about Chrissy Teigen, okay? She was a little person on Deal or No Deal. That's how Meghan knows her. They're going to end up talking about that in the show. And suddenly, she was being skyrocketed to fame. Suddenly, she was everywhere. She was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. She got really famous really fast. And for what? She doesn't sing. She doesn't act. She hasn't hosted a game show for years and years and years. There's nothing that she's ever contributed. She doesn't have a reality TV show. Even that would be lame and boring. All she's done is marry somebody who is famous, a famous musician, John Legend. And then she kind of posts online a lot. Her posts online have always been just a hot steaming cauldron of garbage juice. But it's more than just oh, she's got a wacky personality. You guys, we're going to go over some of her deleted tweets. I am appalled. I knew that Chrissy Teigen had a history and a past of bullying people online. That's kind of what I always thought. Oh yeah, she's jealous of people who are more in the news than her. And she's mean, especially mean to other people, younger people. She's a real big bully. And to go after a 16-year-old and tell them to kill themselves, what is the context for that? How did you ever give yourself the green light to be now I'm going to send this tweet to somebody publicly so everyone can see that I want her to kill herself and that I hate her? I mean, super messed up person. She would do strange things online, when she had a miscarriage, she posted a ton of pictures of her, she and John crying over the baby. And I always thought that was kind of strange that she would put out that public grief online. I just thought these are such tender and precious and sad photos. Why would you want anybody to see this? But also, why are you getting a photographer to photograph your miscarriage? It was really strange. And so I had questions about that with her. Then later she came out and kind of muddied the waters about what had been happening there. She later said that the miscarriage was actually an abortion. I don't believe it was an abortion. The medical literature calls a miscarriage spontaneous abortion. And so in order to I don't know, get her foot in a political conversation, she began talking about how she'd had an abortion too. And, this is just like something that happens and that women and productive rights. And she never really made her point very clear. It was very obvious when she posted the pictures that these were like grieving photos of them having lost a baby they very much wanted. It was not like I went to go get an abortion and then held my aborted baby. Like I've never heard of anybody doing that. So she's always been a person that has just posted things that were weird. She'll post pictures of her in the bath with all of her kids. I mean, it's not like a desperate mother who's like, I've got to bathe myself and the baby won't stop crying, so I'm going to like get in the bath with the baby. Like I've heard about mothers doing that. I have never in all my born days been like, I'm going to draw a bath, kids. Let's all get in. Like, what the hell is that? But see, that is even more concerning when we go back and when we look at some of the tweets that she was just spraying out all over the internet, several years ago. These are old tweets, but it doesn't matter that they're old. Context, you don't need to have like a year in context to understand like, well, the reason she said that was at this time it was okay to say, no, none of this is okay. Okay, so I just want to read some of these tweets. I know we want to talk about the episode, but I need you to know that it is insane they had her on the show. Insane, especially because you're going to try to cast her as some kind of loving mother of 4 kids. She's got 4 dogs and 2 hairless cats, and she's just this mother, nurturer, cooker, crafter. No, she isn't. No, she isn't. Let me just go through some of these tweets with you, okay? Back in the day, she was obsessed with a weird show on TLC called Toddlers and Tiaras, and it was a pageant show about little tiny kids, okay? I have no idea why that show was on TV. The very idea of pageants for little kids is twisted and I feel like was conceived by a pedophile. I can't understand why anyone would want to dress a child up like an adult, put makeup, little sexy costumes on. Like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, I don't understand anybody who would want that. But several years ago, this show was on TLC. Chrissy Teigen, obsessed with it, right? And she would watch it and then she would tweet about it. And these are some of her tweets. Seeing little girls do splits half naked is just, I want to put myself in jail. What are you saying? What are you saying? What is that? I mean, I don't even have any place in my heart to go to understand what that means. If only that was the only one. Hardly, okay? Then there's a little boy on the show. What does she say? A little boy in the pageant now? Finally some eye candy for me. Who would even say that? Whose mind? Like, that's not even a sense of humor. Like, that's not funny. That's not clever. That doesn't have, like, a different meaning. You are a weirdo. You are a weirdo. Okay? How about this one? I'm about to Anthony Weiner this kid. Do we have a hard time remembering who Anthony Weiner is? Let me remind you. This is a pedophile who was caught messaging young girls and whose computer is so full of, like, chock full of some of the most atrocious information. We still haven't got access to it. But she's going to Anthony Weiner this kid. She knew what she was saying. Okay? She knew what she was saying. How about this one for you? It's a little tinfoil hat, but let's read this and see what you think. She says, I'm going to go to jail over pizza. I think 99% of us know what that means, right? Do you guys remember some years ago, the whole Pizzagate thing? And everybody was scared to admit if they'd read it or believed it. You want to seem too crazy. But now with everything we know, it's like, that seems all too obvious that means something. And the number of times celebrities talk about pizza is weird. I'm a normal person, and I don't talk about pizza all the time. Like, this isn't just them trying to be relatable. Okay, the amount of times that we try to, like, believe that they're saying something, oh, that's just them being relatable. Why do they always say it in such weird ways? I'm about to go to jail over pizza? That doesn't make sense. Okay, but if only that was the weirdest thing. Okay, let me just read you one last one. I like to add a pinch of baby powder to the flour when I fry chicken, so it smells like tender toddler booty when the warm grease slides over my lips. And I'm just going to let you read the end of that tweet yourself. What the is that? Okay? This is a person who on record has said that she would eat human beings, that she's not opposed to the idea of sampling a little of that human meat.
The person okayed it. I would eat a human. If you were at a very fancy restaurant and they were like a tiny piece of human meat.
No.
She's a sicko. She's a sicko. And Meghan decides to have her on the show. Meghan decides to have this person who says they want to imagine eating a toddler on the show. Chrissy Teigen has come out and said that she well, 3 years ago, she came out and said that she was getting sober because drinking made her a little bit embarrassing. You guys, this is not somebody kind of like drunk tweeting. She may have been drunk when she did this, but I kind of follow the school of thought where when you tell me something when you're drunk, that's what I believe. If you tell me something crazy when you're drunk, I don't go, well, you were drunk. No, that's when you were telling me the truth. Okay? So, yeah, she's right. If she did this while she was drinking, it does make her embarrassing. Of course, now she's come back out and said that she's drinking again. So I don't know. She did get off of Twitter, which was probably because all of her sponsors were like, what are you talking about? We have some real issues here. Chrissy has worked to try to scrub this image of hers as a demented pervert. She deleted all these tweets, but of course, anything you put on the internet is forever. And so we still have them. And she has addressed these. So these are real tweets. Like these tweets are ones that she has answered to and discussed. So this is not like somebody made up some crazy tweet and attributed it to her. No, this is Chrissy Teigen's account. And she had gone back to delete all these, but we have them. As far as her bullying Courtney Sodden, people were like outraged. That was, I think, what she was really known for, was telling Courtney to go take a dirt nap. It's like, wow, okay, you psycho. Who would say that to a 16-year-old? Who would say these things? But then she came out and she publicly apologized to Courtney and was like, I've reached out to her privately, but since I made it public, I wanted to say to everybody else, I understand the error of my fractious ways. Okay, well, no, you don't, because Courtney then came out and said she's never reached out to me privately, personally, none of that. Okay, so she is just trying to scrub her image and make herself look neat, tidy, and clean. She ain't. Okay? And this is the sort of person that Meghan had on her show. Now, to the episode, all right? I know you guys are like, well, how much longer is this going to go? You need to know. You need to know that this person who's going to come on the show looking all neat, clean, and shiny and talking about her kids and her dogs and how she likes to craft and cook, this is a demonic person. There's just no room. And like, you guys, this is a small sample of what she was putting out there. A teeny tiny little sample. There was another tweet where she was saying she wanted to, where could she find a show where she could watch kids giving birth? Like, this is a person who is fucked up. And I don't use that word, okay? I don't. But this did nobody do an ounce of research on this woman before they invited her to the show? All right? Okay. To the episode. Finally. Meghan begins the episode by making sourdough bread. Okay. It's this whole process, it takes 6 days to get the starter going, okay? But it's super easy peasy, all right? You just measure a little bit of water and a little bit of flour into a jar every day. You feed it, whatever. It's not an arduous process. The biggest moment of drama in the show is her measuring things out on her food scale. What? And not only is she going to have dramatic moments using the food scale, later on Chrissy Teigen's going to come over. They're going to do a little baking. They also have more drama ensues. Can Chrissy get the right amount in the bowl? Can you imagine trying to edit this? Okay, so she bakes the bread. All right. And it comes out beautifully. Right. There's lots of people who are like, she didn't bake the bread. She probably did. It's not hard to make sourdough bread. It just takes a long time. But if you follow all the steps, it's not like, I wouldn't say it's foolproof, but I'm sure this isn't her first rodeo, right? I did have one question though. As a person who does bake sourdough bread, when I put my bread in the oven, I cover it for a determined amount of time and then I uncover it and I let it brown because the steam makes it like more chewy and stuff. At least that's the recipes that I follow. When you guys make sourdough bread, do you cover it or do you put it in the oven uncovered? Because don't you want the steam to kind of make it like good and chewy? I don't know. That was just me. There's a lot of different recipes out there. I'm not saying she did it wrong. I'm just saying I would have thought you would cover it, but whatever. She pulls out this beautiful loaf. Okay, whoop-de-doo. Then, of course, she's got to prepare snacks and goodies because Chrissy Teigen's coming over, right? And she decides that she's going to make some Thai tea, some boba tea. So she's got like those little tapioca pearls. I don't know. Is it tapioca? I don't know. She makes the tea. And this is the thing that I always wonder, because this is the same thing I wondered last season. Whenever she has somebody come over, she makes the drinks, puts ice in the drink, and then, of course, it's just sitting on the counter chilling. The ice is going to dilute the drink. Wouldn't you make the snack first and then wait to do the drink until you knew that they were like literally at the door? The order and the process in which you do something does matter because it affects the outcome. Wouldn't drinks be the last thing? Maybe it's just me. Not like I know anything. I don't have a cooking show. She prepares the tea, and she, uses this as another opportunity to talk about how she loves Thai Town, someplace in LA where you can get Thai tea. There is a weirdness about her need to connect with people of Asian backgrounds. She like desperately needs us to believe that she and the Koreans are like this. She loves the Thai people. She is a samurai. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just like, it's every single episode there is some kind of talk about how she loves the Asian cultures that are in California. And of course in LA there is, a big Asian culture, but it's just one of those things where it's just like, are you just lacking talking points, or do you think that your enjoyment of other cultures is like an extra gold star for you? I'm sure, enjoy other cultures. It's just a reoccurring set of anecdotes that she tells about her love of Asian culture in her youth. And I'm just like, all right, the Asians know, Do you feel like that's an untapped group of people who might like you now? Is this like an untapped market for you? Feels like there's some kind of manipulation behind that. I don't know. I mean, at this point, I'm nitpicking everything, so it could totally be that she just super loves the Asian food and stuff. I don't know. Okay, so she makes the drinks way too early. And then she sets those aside, and now she's going to pull out that sourdough bread, and she says she's going to make some kind of little snack. Gross is what I can say. The bread looks amazing. It really does. I mean, who doesn't love a good piece of bread? But she slices that up like she's never cut bread before. And she toasts that up with some olive oil, and she pulls it out. She puts on, as she says, some ricotta. And she has a whole long thing about how this is like the cousin to cream cheese, but it's a cousin that should be visited more often. She zests some lemon in there. Lest you think that she can't zest a lemon, let's get a real tight shot in on my hands zesting this lemon. You guys, as long as we're on the topic of the tight shots of the hands, what is the deal with how many times they show us everyone's hands? These long shots of people's hands, it's like an obsession with whoever edits this is like some kind of hand fetish person, because we're looking at the hands all the day long. Anyway, she zests her lemons to show she has gotten some skills in that area since season 1. And then she slices some persimmons on top. She drizzles some balsamic on top of that. And then she puts a hefty amount of salt on top of that. And then she puts some thyme all ready to go for when Chrissy shows up. Chrissy, right on cue, shows up as soon as she's done with her snack prep. And Chrissy comes in and she's like, I brought John. Okay, so then John comes in and gives hugs, and then he goes and hangs out in the living room, presumably. You think he's going to leave. He's just hanging out. And we know because later on, when Chrissy Teigen doesn't remember things, she's like screaming out to John, 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 to like see if he can help her. He does. Anyway, they stand around and they drink the drinks, and Meghan's like, is it good? Is it sweet enough? No, you guys, she put a hefty amount of brown sugar syrup into these drinks. Chrissy Teigen's like, it's good, but I could really use some condensed milk. The thicker the better. I have never gone to somebody's house and been like, where's the condensed milk? I didn't realize it was 1932. I don't know. Maybe it goes with Thai sweet tea, so I don't know. Meghan's like, oh yes, I absolutely have some. Who keeps sweetened condensed milk? Is that a household staple that I just didn't grow up having? I mean, of course, like I remember like grandparents and stuff having that, who were still over there scraping together what they could from the Depression and still had that Depression era mindset. But I don't know, we still had sweet condensed milk. If I went over to somebody's house and they prepared me a drink, I wouldn't be like, let me ask for some outlandish ingredient to make this better. I don't know. But again, that could just be me, like, because I didn't grow up in a house where we sweetened our beverages with sweet condensed milk. Like, that could be totally a thing. And so if it is, and you guys all have sweet condensed milk at your house, and you wouldn't think it was weird if you hand somebody a glass of sweet tea and they ask for sweet condensed milk, more power to you. Like, that might not have been a weird moment for you. It was kind of like, well, Chrissy, what a random thing to ask for, but again, whatever. Okay, they decide after they have their snacks. Meghan has shown her the starter. Chrissy's like, during the pandemic, I bought all this stuff to make sourdough bread, never did it. And so Meghan's like, yeah, well, you get so much starter. They call it the discard, which is gross. But we're going to make some crackers, some cheese crackers, like homemade Cheez-Its. So they proceed. After they've drank their tea and ate their persimmon snack, then it's time for making these crackers. And this is where Chrissy gets to have her moment of drama, measuring out the ingredients. bogus, I tell you. Like, what in the world is this high drama? You know, and they're, clapping. Yay, you got it right. You got it right. Is it so hard? You guys, I have to tell you, this was one of the most boring episodes that I've ever seen, which is it's a good thing we had some things to talk about Chrissy in the beginning, because, I mean, we're almost halfway through the episode at this point. After they get done making their crackers, or the dough for it anyway, it's got to chill, Meghan says that she's got a craft planned for them, and they're going to make jewelry with this UV resin. So they're going to dry flowers and then set those flowers in resin, and then 24 hours later, that'll be, these cute little bracelets and charms that they can give to their kids. And dogs. Meghan makes some for her dogs. Chrissy is like, at this point, Chrissy has shared with us that she has 4 kids. She's got 4 dogs. She's got 2 hairless cats. Meghan's like, how do you keep up with it all? And Chrissy's like, well, people just keep telling us about these sad little animals that, are hurt. And, they just send them over. And, of course, we take them in. And, I'm learning all about cats now that we have 2 hairless cats. And I'm like, 2 little demons? Sounds right up your alley. But she has to this point just made herself seem like she's just like this super nice normal mom, but this is where it starts to disintegrate a little bit, because Meghan says that she thought it might be fun to make the kids jewelry based on their birth flower. And Chrissy's like, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to look that up. And I'm thinking she's gonna have to look up like what birth flower goes with which kid, because I don't off the top of my head know which flower. I birthstones a little bit more, because as a kid you find out that there's like stones that go with your birth. It's kind of interesting, like, well, what's my birthstone? So I remember that, but I don't remember knowing what my birth flower was. To this day I don't know. So when Chrissy says I have to look it up, I'm thinking, well, that makes sense, who would know? And Meghan's like, well, no, I've looked it up for you. We both have May and June birthdays for our kids. And Chrissy's like, no, my kids' birthdays. Then she pulls up her sleeve to show that she's had all the dates of her kids written on her forearm. And she's trying to decipher which months they all are, because she's got 4. Meghan only got 2, so I think Meghan knew about 2 of the months, but I don't think she knew about the others. And so then it was like Chrissy's trying to decipher like when are her kids' birthdays. You guys, having 4 kids is not so many kids you can't remember their birthdays. Is that not crazy? I mean, I have 3 kids. I know their birthdays. Like, add 1 more, I'd still know that kid's birthday. I'm telling you, the moms who have like 6, 7, 8 kids, they know their kids' birthdays. Who has to have it tattooed on you? She couldn't even read the tattoo, so that was another problem. So then she's screaming at John, John, when's Miles' birthday? Oh, yeah, I see that now. Okay, thanks. Okay, so it's just like, for a person who has spent so much time slapping their eyes on toddlers and tiaras, and then tweeting vulgarity about them, it makes sense that she would not remember her kids' birthdays, because she doesn't like kids. Not like a normal person does. And what does she care about when their birthday is? You know what I'm saying? Okay, well, they go out to pick their flowers, and then they go into Meghan's little craft barn, and they dry their flowers. And while they're drying flowers, they're talking about Deal or No Deal. So apparently, I didn't even know that Meghan... I never watched Deal or No Deal, right? So the only thing I know about that show is that Meghan was on it. And I've seen the old pictures of her, wearing that ill-fitting red dress with the ill-fitting bra, right? So, like, I'm well aware. I didn't know Chrissy Teigen was on that show. I don't know anybody who's on that show, right? I don't know where I was, but I wasn't watching that show. But I guess Chrissy Teigen was on the show same time Meghan was on the show. So they're like reminiscing about it and talking about like how it was so crazy, and talking about how like do you remember we'd all have to line up and they'd put on our lashes on us? And then Chrissy's like, yeah, but do you remember that time at the end of the show when somebody held out a Ziploc bag to us and we were supposed to take off our lashes and put it in there? Like, were they going to use those the next day? And they like giggle and laugh. And Meghan's like, I was just so happy to have health insurance, because of course she's got to remind us that she's just a poor little girl who just barely knew how she was going to make ends meet. She was all but homeless, what with her car that didn't, even have a door that worked, and she had to climb out the back hatch, what with her clipping coupons and working from the tender age of 13 over at Humphrey Yogurt. She just always had a little job here, there, and everywhere. And so just to add to that whole story that she's got going, here this poor little girl was who just stumbled up into the ranks, high enough in the ranks of Hollywood to get some health insurance. Okay. Always the poor little hobo. Anyway, after they get done drying the flowers, they go in to make the crackers. The dough's ready. They roll out the crackers, and Chrissy Teigen's just talking about one thing and another. She likes to go to random museums. One time she stood in line for hours at the Cheez-It Museum, and then after standing in line for hours, she just didn't even go in. Chrissy, what are you talking about? Anyway, I mean, like that's the amount of conversation we're having. Like, that's the depth, the quality of, and so as you can imagine, I was fighting for my life trying to get through this episode. Meghan and she roll out the crackers. Meghan inexplicably chooses some kind of whack rolling pin. Look, I understand that's a rolling pin she used. I really don't know what that rolling pin is good for, though, because Chrissy chooses the pastry rolling pin and Meghan gets this clunker, and then Meghan can't roll out the dough. But I'm also like, well, because you're holding it from the sides. Put your hands in the middle if you're going to use it. There's like basic common sense. You don't have to like have any experience, but it's like, are you alive in this world? Do you know about how the world works and like just like how your body works in this world? Like, why would you hold it from the outside and try to roll? Like, hold it on top, put some pressure on it. Like, duh! It's just annoying to watch people who call themselves cooks, but like, you don't even need to be a cook, not a baker, not a chef, not nothing. Are you a human being who understands that your weight and pressure will push down on an object? Do you understand that? After some more drama about which rolling pin, she finally goes back and gets the right rolling pin. She's got another one of the pastry rolling pins, so okay. Oh gosh, I mean, if you're still with me, good for you. You've got an attention span like nobody else. Then it's time to cut the crackers so they look like Cheez-Its. And Meghan says, this is really good because it's got this beveled edge. That's not a beveled edge, or am I dumb? Okay, who knows? It could be either one. I thought a bevel meant an angle, right? Like a mirror that has a beveled edge is a mirror that has an angled edge on the side. A coffee table with a beveled edge has an angled edge on the side. Is this beveled? I thought this is just wavy. But she has, she wants to give to Chrissy some knowledge about why this is best, because it will allow air to come in and like the crackers will rise and blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, maybe I'm dumb. Maybe that really is a beveled edge. I just would have not called it that. But anyway, again, I'm being nitpicky. They cut the crackers. They make the crackers look like Cheez-Its by putting a little dimple in the middle of it. They take pictures for Instagram. Look at our cute little crackers. Let's post on the gram. Put the crackers in. Now it's time to go make the jewelry. So they go, and there's this sort of interesting little moment where they're sitting down. They've got their trays of dried flowers. They've got their little craft area set up. They're going to make their resin jewelry. They've got lots of little gold frames, and then they're going to stick that gold frame on a piece of tape. They're going to put a little bit of resin inside of it, put their dried flower on top. They've got this like UV light, the same kind of light that you use when you go get gel nails. They slide their jewelry in, they cure it, they put another coating on, they cure it again. Like, that's the process. Okay. As they're selecting their flowers, Meghan says, she's like helping Chrissy sort out the flowers that she needs for her kids' birth months. They've dried a whole bunch of stuff, and so Megan's just like reminding her about it, and she's like, here's your daisy, here's this, and then she says something about like, and this is Hansworth, and it sounds like she's saying this is for a child named Hansworth, and then Chrissy starts laughing, and she's like, you've got a kid named Hansworth, and Meghan says, oh, you've never heard of my child Hansworth? She's like, that sure would be a secret if I could keep that. In the end, what it comes down to is she had forgotten the name of the flower. It's hawthorn. And so somebody off screen corrects her. They're like, Meghan, the flower's called hawthorn. And she was talking about the flower. She wasn't talking about any child named Hansworth. It's just sort of like this little confusion. But we don't really need to care about any of that. My whole point is the fact that she would address the concept or idea that she has children you've never heard of is once again her answering her critics. If I could keep a child's secret named Hansworth, that would really be, that'd really be something. I'd really be pretty amazing if I could do that. You've already kept these other two little kids secret, okay? You've given them names. We know their names, but who even are they? Yesterday on her social media, she posted a whole plethora of pictures of the kids, all from behind, of course, but still using the kids in order to gain interest and fodder, because she knows people will make posts about that. Not this person. Okay, I don't believe anything with the kids, and even if they are alive, I don't think they're loved or cared for, so that's all I can say. And you know what? Why do I think that? Because take a gander at the way Lilibet looks half the time. Uncombed, disheveled, cheap clothes. Who is that kid? And could we get the kid a brush? Could we run a brush through her hair? Is it so freaking hard for Meghan? I know that she takes great care over her own hair, lest it look ethnic. God forbid she look like she did when she was born. So maybe she's too busy worrying about her own hair that she can't run a brush through her little child. But is it just me, or is it wild to you that both kids have red hair? See, that's part of the reason why I don't believe this. I know Harry is a redheaded person. Is red hair such an overwhelming gene that they would both have red hair? I don't know. Real tangent, sorry. Regardless, her bringing up the idea that she could keep secrets about the identity and the actuality of a child was an interesting comment to me. Oh, I forgot to tell you that at some point she makes rose water for Chrissy. You know, she's always got to make a gift so she can get her compliments. So she makes some rose water. She tells all about it. She tells about how to make it. Okay. She's really impressed with herself for knowing. And this is a really, it's just, oh, Meghan. She loves to try to create a relatable moment with you by pretending that the technical aspects of things are too much for her. She talks about it all the time when she talks about baking. She says, you know, it's all about like the imperfections. It's just like loving the moment. It's like, I'm always trying to figure out, are these mantras she tells herself because she's a super type A person? But then I look at the way she's never been able to follow through with anything. So I know she's not a type A person. I know that she isn't a person who loves details because she can't follow anything through. So I think she's telling us the truth in the part of the story where she doesn't like rules, regulations, or being told what to do. And that's why she can't bake. Okay. But then when Meghan will be out there being interviewed about her job and all of this, she's always overemphasizing how much she's in the details of everything. She needs you to believe that there's no aspect that she allows somebody else to take on because she's just that kind of person that has to be there for everything, right? No, like it wouldn't be possible for her to be as involved as she wants you to believe that she is. So on the one hand, she's the person who can't stay in details. They irritate her and they get in the way of her creative process. On the other hand, she wants you to think that she's a super, you know, with it, type A. She's got her checklist. She's got, you know, everything's organized. Everything's just, she's minding all her P's and Q's, dotting all her I's, crossing all her T's. Nothing ever gets by her. You can't have it both ways. But it's annoying because with this, her like making her little rose water, it's a really simple process, but she's trying to explain it like it's this really in-depth process, almost like this really tedious sort of scientific, sort of chemistry-esque type of situation she's got going on in her little craft barn. She's literally distilling some water. You know, she's boiling up some rose water that she's let some rose petals float around in, and then catching the steam. And she calls herself Bill Nye the Science Guy. What are you talking about? It's like she's always trying to overemphasize every little task she does, trying to always make everything more difficult in your mind than it was in reality. We're watching you do it. We know it's not hard. Just like it wasn't hard to make that sourdough bread. Just like it wasn't hard to measure that water. But you got to make all this drama. Are we going to get it right? Are we going to get it right? Oh, yay, we measured it right. Party in the house. Just like distilling water is not a hard thing. But you're like, you're not going to believe this. We're going to invert the lid, put ice on top, and that's going to force the steam back down into the bowl. Was that worthy of me complimenting you on your intricate mind and your love for detail? After she gifts the rose water to Chrissy Teigen while they're making jewelry, and after we see them make the jewelry, then it's time to go inside and test the crackers. Of course, they're delicious. No one's ever tasted anything as good as these. Oh my gosh. John, we got to pull in John from the living room. He's been hanging out, you know, this whole time. He comes in, he tries them. Wow, that's really good. Okay, good. She sends Chrissy on her way with some sweet pea flowers, some crackers, and promises of sending the gifts later on that they made for the kids. And then the show ends and she's like packaging up all of the little presents that they made, the jewelry with the dried flowers. And, you know, that's the end of that. Okay. At the very end of the show, and I forgot to mention this yesterday, there's a QR code at the last slide of the show to be like, if you want more information about these crafts and recipes, here's a QR code. And I don't remember that from the first season, but I think that's because one of the big critiques of season 1 was that we are getting such a flyover of what these recipes are or what these activities are. There's no instruction given. It's definitely just like a watch a pretty show. It's not learn how to do any of these things because measurements are never given. And if they are, it's like I'll tell you the measurement of one thing, but then not the measurement of any of the other ingredients. So you're just sort of left with an idea that this could be done, but there's no instruction for it. So the QR code at the end of these episodes, I guess, is supposed to help you. If you want to do these things, you can do these things, and here's where to go show to do it. All right. Honestly, those cheeses look pretty good. I'm not going to lie. Maybe I'll do that with some discard of my starter next time. You know, it looked pretty good. I made last season that saltfish that she made because I was like, oh, is that a thing? And it was good. We all liked it. So I'm not saying these recipes cannot be enjoyed. I'm just saying the show in general, she should have just stuck to her blog, I think. I think that she would have been so much more successful in getting people to like her if she didn't waste our time with this kind of stuff. Because I think like a blog that tells me like I don't want to watch the show and then have to get out my phone and then like do the QR code and go to another page. Just tell me everything I need to know like on one page, right? And like let's have a button where I can skip to the recipe. Like I just think she should have invested her time back in the TIG. Because if there's anything positive about the show is that it is very pretty, but I don't have 30 minutes of my life to just spend on that. Like, unfortunately, this is a scrolling generation, and I'm not saying that that's, you know, we need to cater to that, but I guess what I think is it would have been better. She would be better to just spend her time on creating her social media footprint, I think, than in wasting time with this show. The show is dumb and lame. All right, well, that's the end of that. Tell me what you guys think about her having Chrissy Teigen on. Is that not crazy? And is Chrissy Teigen not the scariest person of all time? She's got 4 kids. You guys, with those kind of tweets, that is really scary. And I'm just going to say it one more time. What is the deal with people who have weird, sketchy pasts when it comes to kids, and yet they seem to nobody questions them. They can say, they can do, they can behave in any way, and everyone just somehow doesn't notice. Somehow they keep sliding by. Somehow they keep rising the ranks. Somehow they're still always on everybody's lips. She doesn't, like I said, no skills, nothing. And yet somehow still, we know who Chrissy Teigen is. How? Why do we know who she is? What power is she tapped into? What has she agreed to do? What? It's just some more of the sickness of Hollywood. All right. Once again, I will see you guys tomorrow. We'll do another episode of Meghan Wednesday, Thursday, and then, of course, Friday. Friday News Roundup. So I'll see you guys later this week. Bye.